So, Danny, tell us a bit more about yourself and the business you run.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me here. Really appreciate it.
Right here.
So I come from a software agency background, and during that time, I had to make a lot of hires. We're working on different projects, things like that, and I would look overseas to do that, and specifically, I tried Latin America. And for me, it was always kind of a struggle to figure out who to hire. Well, I know who I wanted, but who is the right candidate? And then me also being from Peru, I looked at Peru. And I saw that a lot of companies were not really focusing too much on providing high caliber tech talent in Latin America. And so I made the pivot almost as a passion project. And I'm thankful to say that now it's a little bit more than a passion project. And we help CEOs meet their hiring goals.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Why do CEOs of digital marketing organizations use your service?
Well, I mean, I can boil it down to three main reasons. And the first one is the reduction of costs. Being in digital marketing, I'd say you're in a unique position to where your highest, would say your overhead cost is people, and then you're between a rock and a hard place because your clients just really want to bring the costs down. They want more for less, and so when you present them an option where you can get high caliber talent at maybe a 3-to-1 ratio, 2-to-1, it's just kind of a no brainer. And so that being the first one, second being access to talent. So great, you're on board, you want somebody from Latin America, you understand the whole value proposition, it's lower cost, but how do you find these people? Do you go to Peru? Do you go to Argentina, Brazil? What are the differences and how can you take advantage of that for your business? That is a part that most people don't understand. And us being from Latin America, everybody on the team is from Latin America. We know what we're doing. A lot of agencies find value in tapping into that. And so great, like you found your perfect hire, you're reducing costs, but there's a lot of risk involved bringing on somebody new. And especially somebody who's going to be working remotely. Maybe not all teams are used to that. How does that happen? How do you onboard? How do you work with people? How do you set expectations? How do you go from first hire to a successful 1 month to 6 months? We actually help our clients, onboard their new employee so that they're successful and everybody's happy. And most agencies don't take that much time from job description all the way down to, or all the way to the successful hire new team member, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, well, tell me a bit more about how it works. If I'm a CEO that's interested in looking into this, what do I do?
Yeah. So first we start off to see where you're at. Typically we work with companies that already have a job description. A lot of companies that we work with, they've been looking for the hire for over a year, so they know exactly what they want. They just can't find it. If not, we work together to build the job description. And so once we have that, we then go outside with that job description. We check the market. We check our vetted pool, the people we've already worked with, interviewed, and we constantly are looking for people even when we don't have maybe ongoing projects. So then you will get maybe about like 3 to 4 interviews or candidates for you to interview. You can interview how much you like. Typically, we see people select somebody after 2 interviews. That comes out because of how much we spend vetting them. So really, when the client interviews them or when you would interview them first time, most people really already know what they want. And then, okay, so you found your person. We then help you onboard. We look through, how do you plan onboarding? How do you set expectations? And then we're there for about the first month, just constantly checking in to make sure everything's okay. And if you're not happy, we'll find somebody new within the first month. So there's a lot of hand-holding. You just need to show it.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. Yeah. So Danny, what's it like to be a founder in this space?
Yeah, I'm blessed to say I was able to work with a lot of interesting founders, learning from them through working together and their experiences. And I mean, not to mention, being able to give back to the community, being Latino myself, growing up, around the culture, I was born here, but both of my parents immigrated in Peru. It's just a great experience to be able to do that. And just being able to work with people from Latin America. So we spend, like I mentioned, we spend a lot of time mentoring these individuals through a job placement while onboarding. And so beyond that too, we help a lot with resume building. We help a lot with interview skills, And so even if we don't successfully place somebody, people do find a lot of value working with us. And by people, I mean candidates. And just seeing how much we can help them, whether it's through our projects, whether it's their own endeavors, it's been a privilege.
Great. So Danny, how do agencies balance the advantages of having access to a global talent pool with the challenges of culture, language, and time zones?
Yeah. So for language, actually, these countries have policies of bilingualism. So really, there's a lot of people that speak English and really well, sometimes too well, I would say. It does feel a little different from, speaking in Americanized English. But the only thing that I would say I think people need to keep an open mind is when these people are speaking this second language, they, more often than not, what they'll do is they'll take something that they want to say in Spanish and then translate it directly to English. And a lot of times that can present confusion. For example, maybe instead of saying, I have questions, they'll say, I have doubts. And that's a little bit more serious, when you have a doubt, it's, you know what I mean. And,
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
And then, so that's just an example, but it can happen in many different ways. So just keeping an open mind that, maybe necessarily what they're saying isn't what they're literally saying, but, they're still trying to communicate. But besides that, right, English is great. And I think you mentioned time zone differences. Yeah. So time zone difference, I think it's a non-factor given how similar it is. It's essentially most of the countries in Central and Eastern time zone. So it's essentially they're working U.S. hours. Right. So you don't really have to worry about them working while you're sleeping or, working asynchronously. Asynchronously is that term. And I mean, especially for digital marketing agencies, you need somebody client-facing potentially, right? So same time zone. And then finally, the cultural difference is, ethically speaking, I don't think it presents a challenge, right? These are hardworking people. There's a lot of people in that country that stay at companies for 10 years at least. And then, I would say mostly the culture difference is remote work. If you're not used to doing that or establishing a proper remote workforce culture, then I would present that as a challenge.
Right. So, Danny, what are the key factors to make a remote working culture successful?
Yeah, so I would say there's a lot of different ones, but I think to kind of keep it at a high level, one thing to keep in mind is in a remote work environment, it's actually very similar to an in-person environment in what you need to do. Just you can get away with more in an in-person environment because maybe there's a lot of things that are lost in a virtual, interaction that are cues, right? So you need to really be on your game as far as being a manager or leader. So typically, I always recommend setting expectations clearly. If you're going to do one thing, do that. And a quick tip for that is the 5 W's and how. And so those are the who, what, when, where, why, and then how. And what I mean by that is who means who is performing the work, right? And if they're working in a team, who is responsible for the work? What are we actually doing? The mechanical, what needs to get done? Are you building X, Y, Z? Who, what, when? When is deadlines? When it needs to be done? That needs to be very clear. Where can this work be performed? And as a manager, you need to think, does it have to be in person? Could this person do it at home? Is it better? Or does it need to be in person? And why is that? But anyways, so why is the why we need to do this. You'd explain the business goal or the reason why this is done because the person needs to also understand what's trying to be achieved. So maybe they can, bring in their experience and not do this. But so the finally, how is an optional one, right? This is how does the work need to be done? The reason why it's optional is because when you're bringing on junior level people, you really actually need to do this, right? To train them, right. how they need to get the work done. But when you're hiring mid to seniors, not so much, right? Especially once they get used to how things are done in the company. But even onboarding, high-level people, you still need to do that. Right. And the reason this works is because those 5 W's and how are the basic principles of information gathering. So if you can present all that information to somebody, then you are equipping them with the right resources or the right tools to get their job done. And so that obviously doesn't need to be done in person, right? So if you can check those off, then you're really setting up your remote worker for success.
So Danny, I mean, that advice is just all around good management advice that applies to local staff as well as remote staff. But so that makes a lot of sense. But what if you want to bring one of the remote people that you hire through your company in to be with a team in person for whatever, a meeting or some kind of gathering? Is that possible?
Yeah, that could definitely be arranged. And, that's not to say there's no benefit to seeing somebody in person, right? But yeah, to typically get the most benefit from working with Latin America, remote is best, right? So, but if you want to bring somebody over, right, no problem for a short period of time, right, to get that settled. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would experience with people working far away, having worked around the world, is that the earlier you have the face-to-face contact, the more you get the benefits in the remote work. Have you had that experience as well?
I do think it's helpful. And I have my own personal opinion on this. Typically, when people work remotely, not everybody has their camera on.
Uh-huh.
And so when you see that person, in person, then you don't really need that, right? It's just another phone call. You know how they look, you know how they act, when they have this certain tone of voice, right. You get the facial expressions may be different, and you get to infer a lot. So when that's not possible, I would say, turn on your camera, make sure you're focused, you're not typing emails, and I find that you do find a very similar experience. Right. Yeah.
Right. So what role would you say that training and development have for digital marketing agencies who are using remote employees? How do you get the employee to the level that you need?
Yeah. So, I'm pretty big on training and development. And I think not only for, senior level people, but especially for junior people. And I think that's a huge overlooked portion of the business for an agency. Most agencies that I work with, they come to me and say, we don't have time to train people. We need somebody who knows what they're doing. We're busy, we have clients, and things of that nature, which is true. These people are busy. But I think they're setting themselves up for failure if they keep avoiding the training portion, because that's how you set up a sustainable business that can grow, right? If you can take new people in, train them to do what you need to do, and then have them do it, then you'll never have a talent problem. And most agencies do. When they have a lot of work that needs to get done, there's nobody to do it. And they need to onboard somebody new. And even then, if you don't have a good onboarding process for somebody who's highly skilled, they're also going to struggle to perform work that you need to be consistent. And the reason you do need it to be consistent is, you have clients that have, that have expectations on how you, give these results. And you should also have expectations about how your results are given. So it's an interesting balance, right? Training and then bringing in higher skilled folk. But I'd say skills and development is huge. And if you got that, then, you're going to have a business that's very set up to grow.
Hey, so thanks for a great conversation, Danny. It's a fascinating area, and I'm sure that our audience of people running digital marketing agencies, startups, etc., are going to want to know more. So what should people do if they want to find out more about what POD's got to offer?
Yeah, so if you're looking to learn more about what we do, please visit our website, hirewithpod.com, or you could reach out to me at danny.delgado@hirewithpod. And yeah, you can come with me with any questions you have. We can talk about if making a hire is right for you, if now is a good time. But definitely, if you're looking to scale your team up, if you're looking to grow, it's a conversation we should definitely have.
All right. Thanks so much, Danny.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.